I'm doing me, I'm going to me. I have it in my diary, me, M-E, and that means me time, and that's it. And sometimes people say, are you free? And I'll look at my diary and say, oh, I've got something. I've got a commitment at 3. And it's actually, I've got me. And it means I'm having a massage, going for a walk, or just having some daydreaming time. Because when we're always on. So I would say be kind to yourself and less screen, more blue and green.
Hello and welcome to the Living Big Mindfully podcast. I am your host, Kate Champion, and I'm excited to share another inspirational conversation with you today. Let's welcome Julie Lewis. Julie is a woman with a huge, fearless heart. She is an explorer, a resilience expert, and a best-selling author with a passion for helping people thrive through connection with nature, awesome adventures, and mindful living. Julie's originally from the UK, and she now lives in the Middle East, where she runs an outdoor adventure company. Julie has led 70 global expeditions, and she has a particular love for water. Of course, we'll dive into all that and more in the show. After connecting with Julie, having an adventure with her is now on the top of my wish list. I am so inspired by her energy, her wisdom, and her mission. And I sincerely hope this conversation will spark something special in you too. So quick announcements. It's summer here and things are shifting a little bit in my world in a positive way, of course. This means I am spending a lot more time outdoors, filling my creative cup, unplugging, and having my own really fun adventures. So this means a lot less time on social media, and our podcast episodes will be a little less regular. So the best way to keep those episodes coming, stay connected, learn about the events, and enjoy all the helpful resources is to sign up for the community newsletter. Go to katechampionauthor.com. I promise no spam. You can unsubscribe at any time, and I really only send an email if I truly feel like it's helpful. Remember, your time, your energy, and your health are the most valuable resources. So protect and treasure them. This podcast is simply part of my mission to help you live a longer, stronger, more intentional life. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, my friends, here's Julie. Hello and welcome, Julie, to the show today. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm really honored and blessed to be on the Living Big Mindfully podcast with you, Kate. It's just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, too. I was just sharing with Julie before we got on. I am literally a girl fan. One of her feeds came up on my Instagram, feed. And then I looked at her TED Talk and checked out her book, and she's just doing some really amazing things in the world. So I'm excited to share this conversation with you guys today. So I want to shine the spotlight on you. I want to hear about you, your journey, where you are in the world, how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Super. Yeah. Well, my name is Julie. I'm British. I'm originally from Sheffield in the north of England. I've been an expat for the last 27 years now, predominantly in the Middle East, a couple of years in Hong Kong. And basically, my background initially was in sports science. So I spent 18 years in the health, fitness, and sports management industry. After a change in my personal circumstances, I was widowed when I was 36. I decided to just step back a little bit and decide what my next path was going to be. So there were tears, there was journaling, and eventually there was a journey. And that journey took me to Kota Kinabalu, a mountain in Malaysia that was calling me. It was like a soul tap. So that was in 2002 for my 40th birthday. And everybody says, your 40th birthday is kind of quite a milestone. Life begins at 40. I'm sure it begins much earlier than that. But so standing on top of Kota Kinabalu on the 7th of April, 2002, which actually the United Nations designated as International Year of the Mountain. So what a great year to choose to climb a mountain. And I'm standing with my arms outstretched, thinking I'm on a mountain, I'm on a high. Oh, Mountain High, that would be a really cool name for a company to encourage and inspire more people, in particular women, but more people to step out their comfort zone, connect with nature, connect with different cultures, and just challenge themselves, really. So 1 year later, in 2003, I took 18 women to Everest Base Camp in Nepal. And I believe that once you've been to Nepal, lots of things can change. And so when I came back from that trip, I stepped down from my job and I finally had the courage to start Mountain High, an expedition company for women, which has been running for the last 23 years. So I've led around 70 expeditions to the Arctic, Antarctica, and everywhere in between. Um, and as you know, Kate, as a fellow explorer, once you start exploring, you have lots of stories. And people said, you need to write a book. And it was like, okay, I'll write a book. So my first book was published in 2016, Moving Mountains, Discover the Mountain in You. And then I did a lot more speaking. I was running retreats around resilience, courage, confidence, nature-based practices. And I went back to the same mountain when I was 55 because I just felt I needed another message
Oh,
from the mountain. And this time it was pouring it down with rain. So I thought the message is about water, you know. And there's a
clever.
beautiful, yeah, stand like mountain, flow like water. The Lao Tzu quote came to mind. And when we were back down at the base of the mountain, we were having different conversations. And somebody asked me if I'd ever climbed Everest. And I said, no, and I don't really aspire to. There's lots of smaller mountains that I'd like to do. And then somebody said, but what about the Everest of swimming? And I said, what's that? And I said, the English Channel, swimming from England to France. So, in my wisdom and curiosity and madness and adventurous soul, I decided to attempt to swim from England to France in 2018. I didn't make it. However, 2 out of 3 people don't make it, but I learned so much about myself. I
Oh,
learned about water. I learned about being present with nature. So the second book came along 6 years later called Uncharted Waters, Discover Your Hidden Depths. So all of the experiences that I've had in nature, in the mountains, in the forest, in the ocean, have really shaped my character and who I am and what my message is. And that's really to give nature a voice and to encourage more people to fall in love with nature again, because we need nature for our survival. We need air and water as a
yeah.
basic minimum. And nature needs us for preservation. So it's a kind of symbiotic relationship. Take care of yourself, take care of nature, take care of your nature, it's taking care of yourself. So that's it in a kind of nutshell in terms
Oh,
of my
mm-hmm.
life has progressed from being very sporty, physical, but in traditional ways in the gym, squash, tennis, aerobic studios, to then discovering this huge playground of
Yes.
mountains, forests, oceans, and just beautiful, beautiful. So I feel very blessed. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I am just soaking up, right? The connection. And I loved what you said about, the natural world and that symbiotic relationship. Because I mean, let's face it, Julie, we are nature, right? We are people from the planet, right? I mean, we are intrinsically
Yeah.
connected with nature, right? The sun, the moon, the oceans, the seasons. And we are so far from that, right? At this point in
Yeah.
our life. I mean, so much coming up at us, and we're so far from that. So I'm so thankful there are people like you on the planet really trying to get women and people people, women
And people, yes, yeah,
connected kind of back
yeah,
to the roots. It's
yeah. I mean,
beautiful.
we're 70% water. You know, our bodies are 70% water. We're part of this whole ecosystem that what we do to nature, we're doing to ourselves. You know, when I talk about, not taking, not having plastic in the ocean and doing certain things
Mhm.
or, being a certain way, I say, do you realize that, what you do to the planet, you're actually doing to yourself?
Yeah.
So to protect what you love. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
definitely like big nature advocate. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So I'm curious, before we dive into the questions, what was it like growing up? Were you a pretty an outdoors kid? Was that encouraged in your family? I'm just a little curious about kind of growing up
Yeah.
and roots. Can
Yeah.
I ask you that? That's curious about
Yes,
that.
of course. Yeah. Interestingly, I was my parents say I came out with a
Mm.
pair of trainers on. I would not sit still for very long. My dad would say, I'll give you £5 if you will sit still. And when I needed some pocket money, I'd say, okay, I can sit still. But I loved moving. I loved playing outdoors. We lived in farmland area. My father was a builder. He built a beautiful house. And so my local school was maybe like 20 minutes drive away. But when I was 11, my junior school headmaster said, Julie would thrive in a private school. And I was like, what? And of course, as an 11-year-old, I got no idea. But I mean, I sat a couple of exams for different schools. And at the tender age of 11, I went to a boarding school
Mm.
and I stayed there until I was 18. So I just came home for leave weekends and during breaks. And that was very focused on sports, obviously academics, but sports and being outdoors, which was a really much a blessing. My father was a big traveler. So holidays, we would always go on mini adventures, and he was kind of quite sporty. So we would spend time outdoors more than indoors. And I think, yeah, very happy childhood. I had two elder sisters that I always kind of emulated, thinking, I want to be like you. My sister was big into horseback riding. My other sister Susan was very much
Mm.
into nursing, caring. So Jane, my eldest sister, was like, oh, I just want to be like you, riding horses and working on the land, because she works in the agricultural sector. And then I had a younger brother, my younger brother Paul. So I'm definitely the one that had the adventure gene, the chromosome, because
Yeah.
um, I just always knew from a very early age, maybe being in a private school with meeting with different people from different cultures
Mm.
was
Mm.
that. That recipe was part of that feeling. I'm a bit out of my comfort zone, but hey, I'm going to get to learn and meet some new people. So um,
Mhm.
so, so I think my childhood was, I think I was very fortunate because I had the best of
Mm.
both worlds. I wasn't fully at home, but I wasn't fully away from home. I had the best of both
Mhm.
worlds. So that taught me kind of resilience, curiosity, independence, confidence.
Abundance.
And as I said, my father was a great traveler, and as soon as I finished my last A levels before university, I disappeared to Portugal. I remember I was 18 and I said, I'm going to Portugal. And
Yeah.
and I almost was thinking, well, maybe I'll stay here. It's really nice. I don't need to go to university. And then I had a bit, well, maybe I need to go to university.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whenever there was an opportunity to travel, I would take it. And when anybody used to say, what can we get you for your birthday or for Christmas? I used to be very cheeky and say, an airline ticket. Or
I
some
love
new
that.
foods or something. I was
Yeah.
never not wanting things. I wanted experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
still,
really a part of your DNA, right? I mean, really embodied. And I really, again, very much resonating with you and your journey. And yeah, so fun. All right. So first kind of, I really want to dive into, tell me more about why exploration is so important, the power of it, what is brought to you in your life, and tell me more about that.
yeah, I think to not travel is to not live.
Mm.
Basically, to travel is to live. And it's like to not read a book is to not live either. That we can be very comfortable in our environment, But the minute we step out of our normal environment, we become more sensory. We step out of autopilot into this, like, oh my gosh, where do I find this? How do I find that? That smells different. Ooh, this tastes different. So it's like a sensory overload. So we become more neurally alive, really, because if we're going from home to work, home to the office, home to our favorite restaurant, etc., we're very much kind of it's comfortable, it's fun, but part of us searches for adventure and exploration and curiosity and growth and learning. And I think that's what nature, travel, exploration does for you. It shows you a whole new world. It's like putting yourself in a different movie. When you read a book or you go to a movie or you look at art, you're kind of transported into this other world. Um, and it shares, gives you new perspectives, new thoughts, the people that you meet, the foods that you eat, the experiences that you have. I think you just blossom and you come back
Mm.
transformed. So I say transformational experiences because having led, 70 plus groups of people, even people say, who are you going to come back, what version of Julie do we have when you come back? I say, oh, version 10.4, I think, or something, because you cannot help but be changed by what you've seen. And often it can make you realize how fortunate you are, when you're visiting certain countries and things that
Mm.
you take for granted in your home country, and you think, wow, how.
Mhm.
And then again, when you're on mountain expeditions, it teaches you how little you need, that you've got
Yeah.
everything in one bag. Would you want to
Yeah.
live that forever? Maybe not, I don't know. But when you come back, you just realize that for me, it's like now very much, I want more experiences. I don't need things. I don't need stuff. I want, of course, a roof over my head, food in the fridge, all the basics.
Yeah.
And, the cherry on the icing on the cake. And as I said, when people say, what would you like? I say, I'd like an experience. Even if we go to a new cafe together and have, savor a coffee and do something, but I want an experience
Yeah.
to be and go and experience something that I haven't seen before. And I think you get bitten by the bug, really. I mean, I
Mm.
obviously did
Mm.
from that first mountain. And
Mhm.
I think the greatest gift, you know, as a parent, I'm not a parent, I don't have children, but I think the
Mhm.
greatest gift we can give to our nieces, nephews, is to give them a globe, first of all, and
Mm.
give them some maps and just say, this is the world. This is where you are right now. You've got an auntie there. You've got so and so. You have heritage here. um, which part of the world is calling you, finding your place in the world. So I was very lucky. My father gave me a globe when I was 7. And we
Mm.
used to play spin the globe. I'd close
Yeah.
my eyes and then go, let's go there. And then wherever we landed, it was like a little mini geography class. And I just have wild dreams that night, and I talk about this in my TED Talks and in talks about spirit of adventure, that if you haven't got a globe at home, get one. This is
Yeah.
really important for your kids, because instead of just looking at this, they need to have a globe in the hand and spin it and look at all the different countries and learn about it, and ideally go and experience it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
travel for me is soul food.
Yeah.
It's what's my friend has a beautiful expression. She says, starve the ego, feed the soul.
Ah.
And she has a magazine called Soul Traveler. And I think for me, nature has always been my medicine. I went
Mhm.
to the mountains for answers.
Mhm.
I was in the middle of the English Channel, and in my internal waters, thinking, what am I doing? And some of the answers, and in the forest, you breathe and you feel that supportive, that interconnectedness with the roots. So for me, nature has got lots of answers for us when we slow down, be
Mhm.
still, and just listen, and even just close our eyes and just listen. So yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, totally connect with that. Absolutely. So I'd love to know more about your Nepal and Himalaya trip. It sounds like that was really life-changing, and I'd love to know more about that.
Yes, that was in 2003, which was actually a very special year because it was the 50th anniversary year. It was 50 years since Tenzing and Hillary had summited on Everest. So it was a really special year. And having climbed my first mountain in 2002, a couple of journalists here in the Gulf region said, "Can we write a story about you? Because not many women want to say they've hit 40, and not many women want to go and climb a mountain. Most people want, parties and things like that." So they did a few nice articles, which led to a lot of women tracking me down and saying, "I'm going to be 40 or I'm going to be 50." And one of them was a Norwegian lady called Jannica, who
Mm.
became my soul sister, my adventure buddy, basically. So she came in and said, "Julie, I want to climb a mountain." And I said, "Okay, let's talk about it." And after several cappuccinos at the time. Now it's green tea, but this was like 20 some years ago. We decided that we would put a call out to get a team of women together to trek to Everest Base Camp and to raise funds for a mobile breast screening unit because we wanted to do something, but something more than just ourselves. I mean, that you do it for yourself, you support tourism, but what's that even higher purpose beyond it? So we aligned with a charity that was raising funds for a mobile breast screening unit. And before you knew it, I mean, there was no Instagram and Facebook and none of that just right then. So it was all word of mouth, and newspapers and things and a little bit on the radio. And within probably 3 to 4 weeks, we had 18 women
Really?
that I'm in, and it was an 18-day trip. So, I mean, people that had kids had to make some plans. We had to train, you had to make sure you got all the right gear.
Mhm.
And I'd never actually been to Nepal. So but I knew I had some really good people on the ground. So when I arrived, it was like, I hope they're really as nice as they were when we were chatting on the phone and sending faxes. So it was an incredible guy, David Allardyce, a Kiwi guy, and his wife Louise that I'd connected with. So for 18 days, we were with the mountain, and anybody that's done Everest Base Camp Trek will understand this. There's something about landing in Kathmandu, hearing the Om Mani Padme Om, the prayer flags, the katas, just the whole thing is so, so different. And when you're walking every day and in nature and you're seeing the mountains and the villages and everything, there's something that just falls away from you. It's like all the city, the washing machine doesn't work, this isn't right, or all of these things. It's like a walking meditation, and you become light and you start to have different kind of thoughts. And I must say that we had incredible discussions every evening. And when we came back to Kathmandu, I remember the celebration dinner, and most of us were either laughing or crying. And when people came back home, some people committed to a relationship, some people decided to let go a relationship. One woman actually left her job. Another woman said she was going to go back to Nepal the week after and help with an orphanage project. So it actually gave many of us a lot of time, space, for more clarity and more presence because there wasn't the usual distractions.
Right.
I did have a satellite phone, but I said this is only for emergency purposes. So, I mean, now if you do Everest Base Camp, a regular phone works, but back then it was very few and far between. So I think just having that, being with the mountains, being with the path, being with yourself, being with others, seeing how people live so simply and so happily, just kind of gave everybody a fresh perspective. So it
Mm.
definitely is a transformational trip. And when we first landed, our guide said, Nepal means never ending peace and love. That's the acronym. And I went, oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. He said, what does Nepal mean? And then he said, "You know what Japan means?" I went, "No." He said, "Jumping and pumping all night." I went, "I think you mean Tokyo."
That's
Oh, we've
hilarious.
had so many different fun acronyms, but I recommend everybody once in their lifetime goes to Nepal because it is the home of the Himalayas. Chumalunga, Mother Goddess of the universe. Everest is known as Chumalunga or Sagarmatha, Mother Goddess of the sky. And I think whenever you spend time in nature like that, you can't help but
Yeah.
have some transformation.
Yeah. I mean, the same word was coming up. It's absolutely transformational. And honestly, that language is so limited, right? When you're trying to
Yes,
describe and connect with those experiences, but
yes,
it's transformational, the strength, the courage, the layers of stuff, right? The sticky, toxic stuff just kind of begins
yes,
to magically kind of melt away. And it
yes,
is truly transformational. Yeah,
yeah,
beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And now you've done that several trips. You've done 70 something expeditions since then. I mean, that was really the
Yeah.
pivotal point.
It was, that message from the mountain, and then being the first woman in the UAE, maybe even the Middle East, to actually follow that passion, follow that calling. And everybody said, "Do you think people will pay to come on trips with you and climb mountains and do it?" I said, "Well, I think they will." So, and because not many people were doing it, I was very blessed to get lots of exposure. And of course, when you get women, all ages, all nationalities, all backgrounds, all shapes and sizes, and they come back from a trip and they're everybody went, "Tell me, tell me, tell me." And like, "Oh, look at you, your skin's glowing, you've changed, you've got more confidence." The kids are saying, "My mom climbed went to Everest Base Camp," and you're going into the school doing a show and tell like super mom, kind of thing. And that kind of courage and confidence, you then transfer
Mm,
it into other areas of your life. Like, if I can do
mhm.
this, then there's no
Yeah.
reason why I can't do that. So for me, it was, how I choose is like, where would I like to go? What would I like to do? And then just put it out there in the
Mhm.
either website,
The
social media, and
yeah.
everything. Now,
Yeah.
who wants to come? And it's like literally, it's like a little girl saying, "Who wants to come and play?" you know,
Yes.
who
Yeah.
wants to escape and reconnect with nature and add years to your life? Because I'm convinced that travel, that
Mhm.
connection and community just
Mhm.
enhances your life and gives you that huge sense of purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. Tell me
Mm.
a little bit about you must have on your trips had people that were a little scared, a little intimidated. Maybe this is the first time they've done things. How might you help somebody kind of through those early, I can't do this, through those
Yeah.
early kind of steps? How might you help somebody who's not sure, on the fence, but has a curiosity?
Yes, for sure. I mean, when I put trips out and people say, "Oh, I'd love to come," I normally, if they're in the same country as me, then obviously we meet. If not, we set up a Zoom call and I say, "Please ask me as many questions as possible. What concerns have you got?" And I ask, about your level of fitness. Do you have any bone or joint injury? So it's like a pre-trip risk assessment, really, and then finding out why. What were you drawn to? Is it because you've always wanted to go to that country, or you've always wanted to do dog sledding? Is there something that's shifted? Are you looking for something? People say, "I need a challenge. I need to shift my perspective. I've just left my job, or I've just left my husband, or, that they need something." And so, and then really guiding and sharing, training for it, having the right gear. So making it as kind of foolproof, but as possible. And then, meeting the team before, if the team here, we train together, we do things together. So we're getting that team bonding. The trip I'm doing next week to Turkey, I have one lady coming from Guam, one from Boston, two from the UK, and the rest are from me. So we've had a Zoom call just so that we have a WhatsApp group. So it's that team bonding connection kind of thing. Um, and then when you're actually in the environment, of course, how are people when they're cold, tired, and hungry? They're very different from when they're warm, fully fed, and cozy. So as a
Yes.
as a group leader. I mean, I work with guides because the guides know the path. They, everything. I'm not a mountain guide. I'm a group leader. So I work with good guides on the ground and I lead from the back. And I'm the interface between my clients and the guide. So I'm forever, I walk with different people. How you doing? We have buddy systems. If you're twin sharing, every morning check how's your head, how's your tummy, how's your toes, blisters, all those kind of things. And if you can't deal with it with your room buddy, then come and see me. If I can't deal with it, I'll speak to the guide. And if the guide can't deal with it, God help us. But no, it's never been. So I've had people when we've been kind of halfway up a mountain and just say, I can't do this. I'm tired and everything. So it's literally, I say, are you okay if I put my hands on you? And I literally do a little bit of grounding, I mean, I'm Reiki. I wouldn't go running around saying I'm a Reiki master, but I just really I want you to feel comfort. I look at them in the eye. We do some breathing together. I say, would you like some tea? If that's possible, I mean, obviously, if we're in a storm, you're not going, you don't have that opportunity to do that. But I think it's just really coming back to the breath, coming back to the center. And I often do close your eyes. I've got you, close your eyes, focusing on your breath and then opening your eyes. Tell me what you can see. And say, oh, I see a bird. I see that, and it just takes them away from the, I can't do this kind of thing. So it's just, comfort, and that even if you hold somebody's hand, they feel comfortable. And I'd say, give me your backpack, your backpack's heavy, give it to me and I'll give it to the guide, or we'll work it out, because, unless somebody is got altitude sickness for some, it's got an injury or something that I need to kind of, first aid or get them off the mountain, that's a different story. But a lot of the time it's because people are on a bit of an adrenaline. It's the first time they've done something. So it's not necessarily always on a mountain. It could be riding a bike if you've not been riding a bike for a long time, or if you're on a kayak and you're thinking, I've not been in a kayak on water for some time. So I think it's just actually creating that supportive environment. At the beginning of each trip, we have like an open circle, and we say, what your name is, what the reason you decided to come on this course, this retreat or this expedition, what your favorite color is, what your favorite soundtrack is, and is the one word that when you need a little bit of oomph, what could we say? Like boom shakalaka, and it makes people smile, and it's like, oh, some energy, or what songs can we sing? So I think it's, that human touch, that human connection, and know and realize that we're going to feel very differently in different environments. And we're going to have our days, and we're going to have, oh my gosh, after 4 days of walking 20 kilometers, And so then that's when, the teamwork really comes in. So I'd like to think, there's a lot of tools, techniques, strategies to really ground and center people. So whatever's going on around, that you cut that out by coming back into the breath, or just having that touch, or having a bit of a giggle and just say, grab my hand, come on, I'm going to walk with you. You're not going to be on your own. Let's do this, I mean, unless somebody says, I've strained my groin, I'm dehydrated, but, I don't think that's ever happened on a trip, because I'm very conscious about, stay hydrated. We have little stops, make sure you're eating well, make sure you get a good night's sleep, all of these things. So,
I mean, I find, once you're committed, once you quit committed, you're on the trail, you're moving, you're walking, after about, I don't know, 3 days or so, I mean, it really now becomes a mental game, right? It really becomes all up here. It becomes mindset, it becomes mental, because the body can endure, I don't know, so much, right? I mean, just kind of automatically. I mean, so the things you're talking about are really helping that person's who might be struggling or stalled or stopped or stuck or tired, really helping them reset that kind of that mental game. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that after a point it's all mental?
I would say 85% mental. I mean, really, really is. And I think that's the same in life. really, that, it's
Mm,
your mind state. What state of mind are you in? I mean, I prefer state of mind instead of mindset, because I think set, that
mm,
means set. So I kind of, what state of mind are you in? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? Sometimes it's as simple as on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is I'm exhausted, I have nothing to give. Where are you? So if people say kind of 6, 7, 8, that's okay. When people say 4, I think, okay, let's just sit down and just take a break,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
just recenter. And
yeah,
and most people, that we all tend to have a compelling reason why. When we were on the Everest Base Camp trip, we were all fully aligned with we are raising money for a
mm,
mobile unit to go into the community where women can't come into the city. So we had pink bandanas, we had T-shirts, we were singing "The Only Way Is Up, Baby." I mean, and we had 3 nurses from the hospital that was putting the program together. So I think it start with your why. A bit, it's, a bit corny, but there's you usually have a reason. It's a soul calling. It's like I've always wanted to go to Africa. I've always wanted to learn how to cook Thai food. I've always wanted to chant with monks in Tibet. I've always wanted to climb a
yeah.
mountain or raft down a river. So that's a very good start. And I've always said, a positive can do attitude, a spirit of adventure, expect the unexpected, because yes, we have a route. And if the weather changes, we change route, and maybe
Yeah.
one day, like we were in Nepal one time and we were meant to be kayaking that day. We were in Pokhara on the lake. It was pouring it down with rain. I said, no kayaking today. Let's just stand in the rain in the garden and just just get refreshed and everything, and then book some massages and let's see how the weather is tomorrow. So, reframing situations
Mhm,
is always helps. Yes, it's
mhm.
disappointing we can't kayak today, but what can we do instead?
Yeah, yeah, it's an
'Cause safety.
opportunity. It's an
Yeah,
opportunity to try something else, explore something
yeah,
else.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So if you've given us kind of tons of tips, if you were to give again a listener who's maybe has a soul calling or this thing that they've just been burning in the back of their mind that they want to do, literally, what would some first steps be? If you were to say, how would you guide them through getting more information and then making that commitment and then, actually showing up and doing the thing? What might you suggest?
Yeah, I think you get to a point where that whisper about go to Nepal or go to Bhutan or go to whatever it is, it gets louder and louder, and all of a sudden, because you're thinking about it more, you might see advertisements in the paper or people talk about it. So it's like the universe is sending you more and more messages, and you're thinking, oh, for me, if I it's a country 3 times or something 3 times, I think I'm meant to do something with this. And I'll tell you a funny story about this, because I was on a
Please.
flight from Hong Kong to Dubai, and on the movie, when I first put the entertainment on, it was Mr. Popper Penguins. And I thought, oh, watch that. Sounds like a feel good movie. And it was about penguins. It was a fun story. And then the cabin crew came round and they had teas and coffees, and they had these biscuits. And it was a penguin biscuit, which I used to have as a kid when I was, and I thought, oh, that's super. I got back, it was my 50th birthday, and one of my friends bought me a book, Things to Do Now That You're 50. When I get books, I usually put it to my heart, close my eyes, and say, what would you like me to know? And then I
Mm.
open it randomly, and I opened it, and it said, go to Antarctica.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
thought, okay, that's 3 messages. This was in 2012. So then I just put out, who would I use as a ground handler? Very long story short, I took a team, the first and only team of breast cancer survivors from the UAE to Antarctica. We created a book and a film. We had an epic journey, and I told the story when people said, "What made you go to Antarctica?" I said, "A movie on a flight, a biscuit, and a book." um, so
That's
I
just
think,
wow. I mean, I literally have goosebumps, right? I mean, like
yeah.
literally, but that is just totally kind of inspired, right? Inspired from something bigger, right? Whatever your
Yeah,
beliefs
yeah,
are, right? And
yes,
you
yes,
take, you receive the messages, you're open to the messages, and then you like okay, you kind of dive in, right? You just kind of dive in. Oh,
So I think looking for signs or just a calling, for some people, it's like, I want to go back to my roots. One of my clients said, I did my DNA ancestry and and she had a certain percent Scandinavian. I said, that's so interesting. I have 17% Scandinavian. So I'm intrigued by like Norway, Finland, Iceland, all those kind of countries. So sometimes it's because, you have some heritage or some family there, or it's just something that intrigues you. Saw it in a movie, you read about it in a book, somebody talked about
mhm,
it. But then to dive deeper, what would that look like? Who could I go with? Who's a good operator? Um, you
mhm.
know, ask people, have you ever been to, do you know a good person for this? And then obviously if it's climbing a mountain, what training do I need? What clothing do I need? All of these kind of things. So kind of almost, I'm very visual person. I do like mind maps. I put like Bhutan, it's like ground handler, a trek, the tiger's nest, so all the things that you want to do. And then ideally you find somebody that you can go and do it with.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Julie, they call Julie,
yeah. That's right. Call Julie.
and
Absolutely.
if it's not on my radar, I'll say, look, it's not my lane, it's not that kind of thing, but I can make sure that I can put you in touch. For example, I don't want to sound pretentious. I've climbed Kilimanjaro twice. I don't particularly want to climb it again. There's other
Yeah.
mountains, and so when people say, "Oh, can you organize a group?" I said, "I can organize it. I won't be going with you. I'll make sure you have the best guides on the ground because I've worked with them
Yeah.
twice." So
Yeah.
um, and sometimes it's just something completely random. Somebody watched a movie or read a book and then just thought, well, I want to go and do that, you know?
Right, right. And you feel it in the body, right? You feel that thing, right? You feel it
Yeah.
like in somewhere in this kind of frontal area, right? Somewhere between the throat and the gut, right? It just
Oh
like a
my
little
God.
spark, a
Yeah.
little something. It's like an energy. It's like it's drawing you, right? If you can listen to that, if you can connect with that and listen to that, it's
Sure. Answering the
so
call,
fun.
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like a rite of passage, isn't it, really?
yeah,
Or answering, the hero's journey. You leave everything, what you know behind, you meet
mhm,
people, the mentors, the guides, and you come back and you share your story and
yeah.
you come back to the same world, but you're a completely different person.
That's right. It's life changing, life changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before I ask you the final question, what is there anything else you'd like to add or share that you think is important for listeners
Um,
right now?
I think in this day and age now, when it's a very complex modern life, I think, simplicity and having these anchors, these rocks that when everything around you is a little bit crazy and developing at the speed of light, AI and everything, to kind of come back to those rocks, those anchors of, inner strength, grounding, centering, calm, focus, family, friends, nature,
Nature. Mhm.
connection. These are the basics that then whatever's going on around you. So I think it's really, really important to um, make sure we spend time in nature because I think it's our disconnection from nature. Sitting in front of a screen, sat down, air conditioning, fluorescent lighting. It's just not normal. And we know that a lot of people, if the screen time is average of 6 to 14 hours, then you know, even, that directed attention instead of like attention restoration. So I think I would really say, the antidote, the perfect antidote to modern day life is just add water, just add the forest, just so, like a nature prescription, instead of running to the doctor, just like go for a long walk,
Yeah. Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's just knowing that, self-awareness and
Mhm.
self-regulation and know that nature is our medicine. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Beautifully said. I mean, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree
yeah.
more. So, if you were to give listeners kind of one piece of kind of sage advice about living intentionally,
Yeah.
what might that be, Julie?
Oh my gosh. I think, for me, the importance of rituals,
Hmm.
how I start my day and how I end my day and how I can take little joy breaks or mindful breaks across the day. So, I would say prioritize sleep. I don't think people are how important sleep is. Those winding down rituals, practicing gratitude, no blue light, a good night's sleep. And in the morning, and it's not for everybody, but, I wake up, I meditate for 20 minutes, I stretch for 20 minutes. This is not even in my radar. It's like I'm not connecting with the outside world until I've given to myself.
Yeah.
So the first 2 hours of the morning are for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody knows, don't contact Julie. Exercise, think, journal, because I think that sets the scene for the day. That you're grounded, you're focused, you're calm, you're energized, you're nourished. And then you go out, and if there's things along the day that it's just to breathe, obviously not when you're driving, close your eyes, but I mean to actually come back to your breath. And in the evening, just reflecting on the day, what was good about today, who did I help, who helped me, what worked, what didn't work. So just actually living our experiences and reflecting on them so that we can make tomorrow even better, and I think it's most, I mean, gratitude is one of the spiritual practices or foundations of most philosophies, really. And I would say, be kind to yourself. It's so easy to, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. It's almost like a status symbol. I'm so busy. And it's just like, stop. Self-care for me is self-respect. It's just, I would love to. However, so healthy boundaries, no calls before 8 a.m. in the morning. No calls after 8 p.m. at night. I'm doing me. I'm going to me. I have it in my diary, me, M-E, and that means me time. And that's it. And sometimes people say, "Are you free?" And I'll look at my diary and say, "Oh, I've got something. I've got a commitment at 3." And it's actually, I've got me. And it means I'm having a massage, going for a walk, or just having some daydreaming time. Because when we're always on, so I would say be kind to yourself and less screen, more blue and green.
Less screen, more blue and green. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We could not have ended on a better note, right? I love that. I love that. So first of all, thank you. I have learned so much today, and I know listeners are really soaking this up as well. If people want to reach out to you, connect with you, find out more about you, where can they find you?
Oh, on the World Wide Web, www.julie-lewis.com. And then it's got all of my social media handles like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm based in the UAE in terms of a time zone, but I have clients that come from everywhere. So you don't have to live in the UAE to join one of my retreats or expeditions. You can fly in from everywhere. I actually just today I launched a online program called Back to Nature, Back to You. It's a 30-day online program. So each day you get a nature quote, an affirmation, and a 10 to 15-minute nature-based practice. There's a few guided visualizations in there. So for the people that say, you're here and I'm here, it's just, we're all connected. So if I can help more people connect back to nature and to themselves, that's a huge blessing. My books are on Amazon, so that's very easy to find the books on Amazon. And if anybody's coming to Dubai, come and find me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. I'll make sure I put all those links in the show notes too, so people can just one click and they can kind of reach out to you. So again, Julie, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and wisdom, and it's just been beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Kindred spirits, and thank you for everything that you do in the world. I mean, just putting a podcast out and sharing so much wisdom and your own books and everything. As soon as I thought, explorer, author, mindful, let's do it.
I mean, seriously, I could just, again, really, really resonate with you and what you're doing. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate you and your time. Remember that I do love to hear from listeners, So connect with me at katechampionauthor.com, grab your free hiking guide, share your favorite episode with a friend, and subscribe to the show. Until next time. Hey, me again. Just a reminder, this podcast should not be considered professional advice. It's also not a substitute for mental, physical, or any other healthcare-related treatment. For any questions about your condition and or concerns, please contact a fully licensed healthcare professional. Thank you.